Guys, I am here with Speedball, Mike Bailey. I can't believe I'm like the last person to get to interview you here.
I know.
Everyone's had their time with you, and I had to wait patiently in line. And now here we are.
I did the rounds, and I think my first week in AEW,
I know.
I did Unrestricted, I did
I had to play
Hate
it
You,
cool.
I believe it's called.
Hey, EW. It doesn't matter. We don't need to talk about that other show here because RJ.
Starting off hot.
Okay, let's talk about, first things first, you joining AEW, but then pairing up with Kevin Knight. Why do you guys work so well together?
Man, it's crazy how that happened. It was
Yeah.
just a random pairing. It started in a 4-on-4 match.
Right.
But then we just became a tag team off the vibes.
But the vibes were very good because I feel like I was there for some of those early promos.
Yes.
And you guys were just like a thing.
It's
It was
true.
a no-brainer pairing.
Yeah, I've been wrestling a lot longer than he has.
Yeah.
But still, in his relatively short career, he's done a lot of traveling.
Yes.
And I feel like that's what really made me the wrestler I am today, is going and wrestling in so many different countries,
Yes.
having to wrestle in front of so many different audiences against so many
Mm-hmm.
different kinds of opponent. And he trained with New Japan in America,
Yeah.
and he spent his entire career going back and forth between America and Japan, having to learn both styles, having to adapt to both audiences. And I think that international style
It's very
is really what makes the
interesting.
team work.
It's interesting because, obviously that's such a big component of who you are as a pro wrestler, is your story to getting here and wrestling all over the world. I'm sure most of our audience understands and gets this, but can you explain a little more of what that means to have to adapt in different countries and wrestling internationally and what some of those different crowds can be like?
I think we just saw a little bit of it in Grand
Yeah,
Slam in
yeah.
Arena, Mexico, where,
Yeah.
where the audience's expectation is completely different. And I like to describe professional wrestling as always existing on a spectrum somewhere between Japan and Mexico.
Okay.
Right? Where
Okay.
the way audiences consume wrestling in Japan, it's extremely seriously.
Yeah.
Just as a culture, they take fandom extremely seriously. When someone is a
It's very
fan of something,
respectful in a different way.
right. So they pay attention to every single detail and all the stories,
Mm-hmm.
and they take great care in knowing the wrestlers. And so you have to, as a wrestler, you have to perform for that kind of audience, right? That's going to be super focused on detail.
Yeah.
And you hear it in Japan. When the wrestlers are wrestling, the audience is quiet and they're paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
And then once there's a break in the action, they'll erupt and come together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's super satisfying to perform there.
Did
But
it throw you off the first time you went there, though, and you were like, whoa, are they into this or not into this?
no, because I had been watching Japanese
Right.
wrestling for so long that I knew what to expect, because I wanted to be there so bad,
Yeah.
right? But in Mexico, Arena Mexico is very different, right? But for the most part, Lucha Libre is cultural.
Mm-hmm.
There is no, you're a wrestling fan or you're not. It's just, hey, the wrestling's in town, or there's a show tonight.
Yeah.
We're gonna go and have a blast and enjoy it and drink
Right.
beer, right? But obviously that impacts how wrestling in Mexico happens. That's why it's so, huge acrobatics, colorful costumes.
Yeah.
They don't tell in-depth storylines that span over several years
Sure.
like happens commonly in Japan, but that's just how wrestling is consumed, right?
Right.
And then wrestling all over the world happens somewhere in between that spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like wrestling that is presented episodically on American television is a lot more reliant on the stories,
Of course.
obviously, because
Yeah.
it's played episodically weekly.
Yeah.
And independent wrestling is a lot closer to Mexico, where
Yeah.
just kind of every show happens almost in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
Promotions on average run once a month.
Right.
So that means there isn't really the opportunity to continue episodic wrestling and have storylines that move forward. So
Right.
that's not, none of these are bad things. It's just
It's
the
just
wrestlers
adapting
need
to
to
it.
adapt.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, having to identify all those components and kind of shape my wrestling for each audience's specific needs has really forced me to think about wrestling and be extremely deliberate in what I do.
And you got really catapulted into the scene here at AEW, as we do. We like to have someone come out, have that big moment. But then I believe that one of your first times on camera after your debut was like a Seg 1 promo seg.
Yeah.
Did that like throw you off to come in and immediately get into that episodic style storytelling. I mean, I know you were familiar with doing it before, but like we're saying now with doing the weekly, getting right into it is like you and Kenny Omega, like
Yeah.
here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I had wrestled on TV before,
Yeah.
right? But nothing like how
weekly.
AW presents the stories
Yeah.
that in depth. So, and I mean, English is my second language.
Mm-hmm.
I am not known to be a promo guy. I've never had to be. I've never wanted to be.
Yeah.
The guys that did that on TV that just went and kind of talked smack to their opponents were never the people that interested.
That wasn't really your thing.
In and out of pro wrestling.
Sure.
Right? Even in MMA, I'm a huge fan of Georges St-Pierre,
Of course.
who was always
God,
known
you say
to
his
be
name so well.
Georges St-Pierre. Yeah.
Georges St-Pierre. What a hunk that guy is.
Right?
What's up, GSP?
Absolutely.
Beautiful, beautiful man.
And I think he's not only a hunk because he's jacked and gorgeous. I think he's a hunk because he maintained his dignity
That's right.
despite being in the UFC
Yes.
for many, many years. He was always respectful, and when his opponents would talk smack, he would be like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I'm glad that's how you feel.
Yeah.
I'm getting ready for a fight.
Was he someone that you looked up to a lot growing up in Quebec?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, I was older by the time he came to prominence, but
Sure.
seeing what he did and how he approached his fights and how he was like maintaining his composure was very much in contrast to what I saw from professional wrestlers, and I was like, I feel like this works better for me.
Yeah.
Coming from martial arts and having that same
Yeah.
philosophy.
Yeah. Okay, going back to the promos, you not being a promo guy, it seems to me like you are very comfortable doing promos, even though English is not your first language. Who are some of the people, promo-wise, that you look to, even though that's not really the style that you gravitate towards? Are there people that you're kind of checking out their styles and how you can kind of like apply that to yourself?
So, well, I think Kenny Omega, I think Will Ospreay.
Okay.
Because there are people that, again, the promo style in Japan, you don't cut a promo.
Right.
It's very different. There's a lot more just talking like a normal human being. And I feel like those are two guys who sound natural
Yeah.
when they cut promos.
Yes.
It's their actual voice.
There's nothing worse than a new voice comes in.
I know.
We don't want a new
Oh my God, I
voice.
hate it.
I hate that too.
Yes.
Don't put
You
on the
can
wrestler
always tell,
voice.
and it never lasts.
I agree, 100%. Don't change your voice. We got it right where it needs to be. I'm with you. Okay, let's go back to 2016. Get into the big story. I feel like
Yeah.
are you sick of talking about this?
No, I'm happy to talk about
Okay,
it because
okay.
it's important, it's relevant.
Yes, it is. Okay, so
Yeah.
2016, you get arrested at the border, trying to come in to work.
Well,
You're not allowed to
Arrested is a strong word.
work. Detained?
Not even detained. I just got turned
Just
around.
turned around. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
What border were you crossing at?
The Champlain,
Okay.
Lacole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Your whole career must have flashed before your eyes.
It really did.
To be banned from coming into the United States for 5 years when you are on the upswing of your career, this is a massive blow to anybody's career. What was that drive back home like for you, letting all of that kind of settle in of what are you going to do next?
Yeah, I don't think I got there yet. I think I was just kind of numb, and it took me at least a few days. I don't really remember exactly how long. I think it took me one match
Okay.
to be like, yeah, screw it. I'm just going to keep doing this and see what happens. Because it wasn't like I had been wrestling for 2 years or something. It's not like I started at wrestling school and everyone was like, yep,
Right.
you're going to get signed, let's get you on PWG, and then I did that, and then I got banned, right? I started in 2005. I had been wrestling for 10 years for no money at all, and not because, I was... Well, every time I say that, it gets picked up, and people are like, why wasn't this idiot asking for money? No, it's people don't understand how wrestling in Quebec was in 2005.
Okay.
The wrestlers weren't getting paid because the promoters weren't making any money because no one was selling tickets.
Right.
Because you couldn't advertise your shows because there was no social media yet.
Fair. That's fair.
But, I had already been doing that for 10 years.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'm not going to stop because I'm not going to be able to wrestle in the US. I'm doing this because I love it. So I'm going to keep doing this because I love it.
Right. But then finding what that new path was going to be, because yes, it's one thing to still be doing something because you love it, but it's another to you want it to be your livelihood. You want to be able to pour yourself into it, which is hard to do if you're not financially able to support yourself that way as well. So you started to look toward Kenny, right? How
Yeah.
Kenny kind of shaped his career.
Yeah, there were a few people. Kenny Omega was certainly one of them who had been able to make a good career for themselves outside of the, traditional paths for a professional wrestler, where you get a job in America and
Yeah.
you work for a TV company. No, more and more people were starting at the time to get big in places like Japan, and
Yeah.
luckily I had already taken one trip to Mexico at that point. Started PWG, and that had given me some international connections. I had done 2 months in Mexico. I had started going to England, and I had met some people who worked for DDT in Japan. So looking at someone like Kenny Omega, who was at the time making a career for himself and becoming, the best wrestler in the world without
Without having to be in America.
having
It's
to be in
huge.
America at all.
Yeah.
That was absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for everyone like him who was able to do that, because I was just able to hop on that train and follow that path.
Now here you are.
Now here I am.
Here you are. It's so crazy how stuff like that, like, it still works out. It's not in the maybe linear way that you thought things were going to go, but when you have the will and the determination to make something happen, you make it happen. Okay, what is the best part about being on the road? We're on the road all the time. You've traveled internationally everywhere. What are the things that you love about being on the road or being away from home? There's good and the bad with that.
The food.
Okay.
It's the food. It's not a difficult question, but
Yeah.
by far, my favorite part of traveling
Is the food.
Is the food.
Okay, best thing you've had.
Tantan men, which is spicy ramen
Okay.
from a place called Nakiryu in Japan. which is
Okay, a spicy ramen, like a
restaurant. Yeah.
pork-based ramen, a beef. What's the broth?
I'm not sure, actually. I think.
Oh, probably pork. Got it.
Tantan men, what is the base? What even is the base? I don't know. It's
I mean, it's usually a pork base, but you could do chicken, you can do beef.
yeah,
Kind of bounce around a little bit.
yeah. But I don't know for this one.
Okay. But
Because
that's the
it's
one.
it's a spice-based ramen,
Okay,
right? The
okay.
broth is tantan men is a
Yeah.
different recipe.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got married at the beginning of COVID. Were you guys having to be apart from each other a lot
Yes.
during all of that? How did you guys
Yes.
manage to do that?
So the
How
plan
did you keep
was
the love alive? Let's get a little romantic here
Yeah.
for a minute.
Talking about my wife Veda,
Yes.
who you've interviewed in the past.
I have. I got to actually call a show with Veda one
That's
time.
right.
Yeah, it was great. It was really fun.
Yeah. Man. We got married as soon as we could get married in the United States legally.
Okay.
That was the plan.
Yeah.
Not because, we were forced to, or you know what I mean? It was a marriage of love, but also
We got to get some,
yeah,
we
also,
gotta do
also
some
we gotta
stuff
get
here.
things
Yeah.
going. So we ended up spending 9 months apart during COVID until because the borders were closed,
Yeah,
right? Veda
yeah.
is American, I'm Canadian. The borders were closed, couldn't cross it because of the global pandemic. At some point, the Canadian government made an exception for unmarried couples in long-term relationships. We had to
Oh, how do you prove that?
you go to the notary and you sign a document, and there were forms and
Oh my God.
And then
That's so official for like an unofficial situation.
and then Veda had to get 19 COVID tests, come to Canada and isolate
Quarantine?
for
Yeah.
quarantine for 2 weeks.
In like a
Yeah.
hotel by herself?
No,
Oh, like at your
with
house.
me. Yeah,
Oh, okay,
luckily I had to
okay.
quarantine as well,
Okay.
but we were able to
Thank
do that
God.
together. Yeah, I know.
Oh my God, there must have been some moments where you're like, was it getting a little bit difficult to be apart from each other that long?
Yes.
Yeah.
Though we'd been used to it. Again, we started our relationship.
How did you guys meet? What is your
So we met when I was
deviating
wrestling.
off the
Yeah.
story here, guys, but it's okay.
Well, not really, because it's a very important part of the story.
Okay.
But we met in the U.S. before I got banned.
Yeah.
We were friends for a long time, and at some point after I was banned, we were like, maybe this should be a thing. And so Veda came to Canada. We had a great time.
Wait, so you didn't know if it was going to be romantic or not? She was just coming up and y'all were going to see if it was going to be. That's a lot of pressure.
Well, hold on. There's more pressure coming up.
Okay.
Veda comes over for one weekend. We kind of knew, you know what I mean? We had been in separate relationships. Those ended, and then
Okay.
it was like, okay, maybe let's give this a go.
Okay.
spent the weekend in Canada. We had a great time. We had a blast. And then we had to think long and hard about, logistically, I can't come to America. You can't like move to Canada and you're still a 7 or 8 hour
Star-crossed
drive away.
lovers.
How are we going to do this? And the answer was, well, let's just rent some guy's spare bedroom in Rugeley in the middle of England, and we'll go to England for a couple months at a time and find bookings there.
What the fuck?
So this is, contextually, this is 2016, and there was a big boom for British independent wrestling at the time.
Okay.
Right? So the scene was popping over there, and I had been a couple times and did great financially, even on my own, not attached to promotion, just finding my own bookings.
Sure.
So it was like, we're going to go together and make
So
that work.
that was like the common ground for you guys. We'll go to England. That will be our little safe haven, and we'll go from there. Wow, that's mine and John's Orlando. Neutral territory, baby.
And then over the next
Story for another day.
over the next 4 years, basically up until the pandemic, our schedule was we'd go to England for a month together, then I'd go back to Canada, Veda would go to the US, then we stayed in Germany for like 3 months at one time, then separated, then I went to Japan, Veda would go to the US, then we spent a few times, couple months in Japan together, where I was wrestling for DDT and Veda was wrestling for Tokyo Joshi, which is the sister promotion of DDT, and then so we spent 1 month together wrestling and then 1 month apart. But so the beginning of our relationship, again, Rugeley, if anyone listening knows the town of Rugeley in the beginning of England, which I guarantee they don't.
Is it a romantic place?
It is not. It is absolutely not.
Okay.
But the fact that the first like official 2 months of a relationship were in a spare bedroom Airbnb.
That's how you figure out if you're going to be down with somebody or
Right?
not.
Living-
You figure it out quick.
Living together, traveling together, we had all the same bookings.
Yes.
And-
You know, I mean, because John and I, not in like a similar situation, but like you're together, you're on the road, you're traveling together, you find out quick if it's going to work or not.
Right?
Being able to travel through the airport with somebody and like not be annoyed,
Yes.
that's a big deal.
There is a specific moment. This is when we're staying in Germany.
Which he does annoy me at the airport, by the way, but it's okay.
But you're able to go through it.
Yeah, it's fine.
So this is exactly when I knew that it was meant to be for me and Veda, right? This was the trip, I think. We're staying in Essen, Germany. We drove in the WXW van to like, I want to say Frankfurt. We did the show in Frankfurt, then didn't go to the hotel, right to the airport to fly to London to take a bus to Birmingham
Whoa.
to do a show, take another bus back to London to fly back to Frankfurt, where Veda did 2 shows that day. And then I think flying back to England on Sunday, doing a show, and then spending the night. And
Love of each other and love of the game.
there were several delays in the travel and several like extra buses where you're like, oh no, this isn't 1 bus trip, it's actually 3 bus trips that are separate. And just being completely miserable, overtired, haven't slept in 3 days, and just sitting in the bus, holding hands, like, oh,
that's nice.
this is nice.
You got through it together.
Right.
I think that this entire show has changed. I think I'm just going to get people's love stories. That's what this show is going to be from now on. That's beautiful. I'm glad that it's all worked out. Veda's lovely. You're lovely. Before I let you go, I would like to talk about when you kind of publicly roasted me for how I layered a poutine in my cookbook.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. We can talk about that. I was like, when did I do that?
like,
Yeah,
what?
but yeah.
So my cookbook was at work and you were rifling through it because I said there was a poutine recipe in there thinking, oh, he's going to think that's great. He's from Quebec. He's going to love it. Oh my God. You were reading it at first. He was like very quiet, wasn't saying anything. I'm like, okay, well, he hasn't shit on me yet, but it came. What was it that you were mad about? You were mad that I didn't say it had to be cold cheese.
So you said to heat it up.
Yeah.
Which,
Well, I said everything should be hot, implying the fries need to be hot, the gravy needs to be hot in order to melt the cheese.
you don't want to melt the cheese.
Okay.
The cheese needs to be cold. because especially if you heat it up too fast, then the oil is going to come out of the cheese, and then you're going to have an oily mess
Yeah.
with like baked cheese. It's not what you want at all.
You're right.
An important part of a poutine is the contrast in temperatures,
Yes.
right?
Which I learned when you, I mean, and you're right. I just hadn't thought that far. When you're writing a cookbook too, you have to be very specific about every little thing, and that was something I let slip between the cracks. So, my bad.
I apologize. No,
I should have consulted, is what I should have done.
I apologize because I hate it when other people do that about literally anything else. But here I am doing it about poutine.
It's okay. I could handle it. To be fair, I did have to turn that thing out in about 3 months, so there's actually a lot of errors in that cookbook. So just nobody look too closely at it. How about that? Just
But
flip through
you're
the
not meant
pictures.
to. This is the thing.
Right, you're
I don't
not
think you're meant to.
You're not.
If you
Don't take anything I say too literally.
a poutine is 3 ingredients.
Yes.
Right? And that's what makes it good, is that you have to nail all 3 ingredients and the composition.
And making fries at home is a real
Yes,
nightmare.
it's an undertaking, which you should, by the way. Don't use
Yeah.
frozen fries
No,
for
no,
your
no.
poutine.
No. Have a little self-respect.
I'm going to go on a rant here, but
Great.
don't call it a poutine. 3 ingredients. Again, fresh cheese curds. Fresh. Not frozen, not deep fried.
No, God,
my
no.
God.
Jeez.
Gravy.
Come on.
Fresh fries.
And like a brown gravy.
The brown gravy.
Yeah.
Fresh fries, and by fresh fries I mean that if you go to a place in Quebec that serves poutine and you don't see them cut the potato,
Yeah, you need a hand cut
fry it again, and
Double
serve
fry.
it.
Double fry is the key here, everybody.
It is not a poutine. And this is the thing, cheese fries, delicious.
Sure.
Love cheese fries. Disco fries, cover fries in anything, I want to be happy with it. Why do people feel the need to call it poutine?
I think it's a crutch. It's a crutch is all. They think that it's a poutine. Maybe they've never had it in its true essence. 3 o'clock in the morning, stumbling out of a bar. That is prime poutine time.
I went to Dollywood last year,
I've
which
never
I
been.
love. Oh my God.
I'm going for my
What?
birthday this year. I've never been. Okay.
So it was Food Fest at Dollywood.
Oh
So
my,
it's like this
okay.
pass that you pay for, and you get like, I don't know, it's like $30, and you get to try 5 dishes, right?
Yeah.
Which most of them were great. A lot of very good Southern food.
Uh-huh.
But you're in Tennessee. Why are you trying to do poutine?
Don't.
And it had like sweet potato waffle fries, mushroom
Dolly.
gravy. It could not
A
have been
mushroom
poutine.
gravy.
And yes.
Dolly, my girl, my literal favorite girl. That's bad. That's sad. Damn. Okay.
I know.
Guys, you heard it here first. Don't mess with the poutine. Don't mess with the temperatures. And you can find true love and make it work.
Yes. Right?
There you go. That's the essence of this episode of Close Up. Take what you need from this episode. We're all over the place.